Thank you very much. Good morning once again. My name is Pence Tlakula. I'm the chair, or I will be the program director for this segment. Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber. Honorable Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Njabulo Nzuza. Honorable Deputy Minister of Social Development, Mr. Hanif Hendricks. The Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Honorable Musa Chabani, and other members of the committee. Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable Speakers and members of the Provincial Legislature, representatives of political parties present here today, Deputy Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Inkosi Langa Mavuso, representatives of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Contralesa and Rolesa, the Chairperson of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, Advocate Richard Sizani, and members of the panel, Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Ms. Janet Love, and other members of the Commission present here today, the Chairperson of the Public Service Commission, I haven't seen him, Professor Somadedas Fikeni, I'm not sure if he's here, members of the Municipal Demarcation Board, the DG of the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Tommy Makode, distinguished speakers and panelists from local and abroad, distinguished guests from local and abroad, representatives of civil society organizations and faith-based organizations, ladies and gentlemen. The Electoral Reform Consultative Panel is an independent panel established in terms of Section 23 of the Electoral Amendment Act No. 1 of 2023. The fact that the panel is established by legislation makes it different from other previous bodies such as the Van Zyl Slabbe Task Team and the Ministerial Advisory Committee, which were also established to advise on the review of the electoral system for our country. The panel was formally established on the 28th of May, 2024 for a period of 12 months. The panel arose out of the realization by the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs that there was a significant public desire for the fundamental review of the current electoral system and decided to undertake public hearings on the Electoral Amendment Bill in 2022. The electoral system for the national and provincial elections, as we know, is based on the Electoral Act 73 of 1998. And in the case of New Nation Movement versus the President of South Africa, the Constitutional Court found that the Electoral Act was unconstitutional on the basis that it required adult citizens who sought to be elected to the National Assembly and provincial legislatures to do so only as members belonging to a political party. The court was asked to afford an interpretation of Section 19 of the Constitution on political rights. The Constitutional Court concluded that there was indeed a right accorded to individuals who are adults and citizens to stand for public office without having to belong to a political party, and directed that the defect presented by the Electoral Act be addressed by Parliament within 24 months of the date of the judgment. Consequently, Parliament developed the Electoral Amendment Bill with the Act signed into law by the President of the Republic on the 17th of April 2023. The Amendment Act adopted a minimalist approach in its endeavor to accommodate the participation of independent candidates with the introduction of a third ballot for the regional constituencies, but left open the possibility of considering further reforms through the establishment of an expert panel to investigate and make recommendations in respect of potential electoral reforms in terms of Section 23 of the Electoral Act. 9 members of the panel were appointed by the National Assembly in 2024, and they are multidisciplinary professionals. They are, the chairperson is Advocate Richard Sizani. My humble self, I'm also a member of the committee. Ms. Matsie Mogi, Ms. Michael Sutcliffe, Mr. Saima Mabulo, Mr. Michael Hendrikse, Mr. Norman Duplessis, and Dr. Albertus Skuman. The panel started operating on the 3rd of June 2024 and is housed at the Home Affairs offices in Pretoria. With these few remarks, I will invite the chairperson of the panel, Advocate Richard Sizani, to welcome you, to share with you the mandate of the panel and the work that the panel has done since the establishment in May 2025. Please help me to welcome him by giving him a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, in order to save time, I will not get into the issues of the mandate of the panel because I think the colleague who's presenting the whole report of the panel will deal with those matters. I just want to do the little job that I'm given today, just to welcome you to this meeting so that we can also give the minister and the deputy minister time to do the other tasks they have. I'm going to do it in such a way that my welcome address is going to start from basically naming the people I'm going to welcome at the end. So, chairperson of the conference, Advocate Pensi Tlakula, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, who is the cabinet member responsible for overseeing the appointment of the panelists after a parliamentary process. He also monitors the progress of the work of the panel through receiving quarterly reports from the panel, and will also be the minister responsible to receive the final report of the panel for onward transmission to Parliament. The Honorable Minister and his Director General, Mr. Tomi Makode, who is also present, have been excellent hosts. They respected our independence as a panel and fully supported us within their limited resources with any legally mandate-based requests or any other reasonable requests from us. On behalf of the panel, Honorable Minister and the DG, thank you very much. The Honorable Deputy Minister of Home Affairs is with us here, and he did save us one time in Parliament when we were in trouble. Mr. Njabulo Nzuza, Siyabonga for your presence, Mshaz. Thank you very much. We also have the Honorable Deputy Minister of Social Development, Mr. Hanif Hendricks, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs, Honorable Musa Chabane, and all other members of Parliament. We will also be having, or we have them already, the speakers of different provincial legislatures. I'm happy and very proud also to say that the Deputy Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Inkosi Langa Mavuso, is here representing all traditional leaders. Also, most traditional leaders, some of them are present in their own capacity, and including organizations working with traditional leadership like Contralesa and Rolesa. We have invited, and indeed they are also present, we have all members of political parties and independent candidates. They have confirmed. We have national and international independent speakers and all academia. We have, Minister, and also interacted with the foundations of former presidents, President Mandela, President Mbeki, President Mutlante, President de Klerk, and all of them. And the President de Klerk's foundation was one that has made to us very substantive presentations and also submissions, and have been in attendance full out. And I see my sister's already there. Thank you very much. I'm also happy to acknowledge the chairperson of the Public Service Commission, Professor Somadoda Fikeni, chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa, and our colleagues like Janet Love and Mr. Mashinini, who are also here as part of the IEC. I welcome that team. I know amongst us we have business, workers, organizations, and civil society. I am also proud, Minister, and also participants, to indicate that we have actually conducted and worked several times with South Africans overseas. We have close to over 1 million that we basically have been coordinated, and we have a very active lady based in London, Ms. Haley, Rashad, and all South Africans living abroad who've been working with us. They are online, and they will also make an impression. Minister, they do want to have a province of their own, created somewhere in the system, so they've made a recommendation around that. Okay, let me also take this opportunity to welcome also my colleagues, members of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, ERCP, and the professional supporting team led by Professor Ndletyana. Finally, I would also take this opportunity to welcome all invited guests present here and those attending virtually. Warm greetings to this conference hosted by the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel to discuss potential reforms of the South African electoral system. In my welcoming remarks, I want to say I have been tasked by the panel to welcome all of you to this conference. I have always heard sometime, Minister and colleagues, some speakers saying my task today is very easy, as it is just to welcome all of you. I disagree. Frankly, I do not know what is easy about this duty. I will demonstrate its significance in the South African context, especially our visitors who are with us. South African historians tell us of one significant but very sad historical event which happened in modern northern KwaZulu-Land, the home province of our Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. This incident happened during the early days of contact between the white voortrekkers or pioneers of white settlements in modern-day South Africa and the African kingdoms. Briefly, the leader of the Great White Trek to Zululand, Piet Retief, made contact around 1838 with King Dingaan of the Zulu Kingdom to negotiate a treaty for land for his group in his kingdom. He agreed and invited them to come to his great place, although he was apparently suspicious of the intentions. When they arrived, they were asked that before they enter the king's kraal, they must leave their coats and weapons outside and then come in. Indeed, as respectful visitors, they did that. Once inside, it was actually a planned ambush, as the king ordered the warriors to kill all of them. It's a sad part of our history, but there are lessons we can draw from then. So in South Africa, since then, Minister, the historical legend says all visitors, when they are invited, before they settle, they want to be welcome and assured that they are safe. And therefore, Madam Chairperson, this is no ordinary task. Colleagues, it's not an ordinary task. It's not a task that is given just to anybody. You must look decent. You must be respectable. And you must be trustworthy to get this assignment. They chose me, an officer of the court, to do that today. It therefore gives me great pleasure that the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, I unanimously agreed. And I must say, Minister, I've never complained to you, although I have a line to complain to you, that they unanimously agreed on this, but most of the time they really never take me serious on many of the things that I tell them. That I should perform this heavy and onerous task to welcome all of you as our very important guests and say to the ladies, you are welcome and safe. You can take off your shawls. And to you, gentlemen, all of you, you can take off your jackets. You have arrived where you were invited. You are most welcome. To those of you who will, during this conference, walk around the perimeters of this place and into the gardens, you must also be assured that all our dogs are leashed so you can work and walk safely. I therefore extend on behalf of the panel warm words of welcome to all our guests present physically in the venue and those participating virtually. The panel is extremely excited you could join us for these 2 days. Please participate and enjoy the debates. If you have some time, there are many places close to the venue where you can buy things you need. Have a good and safe stay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister and Deputy Minister, don't be fooled. He's a very hard taskmaster. Now, to say to us that to you that we don't listen to him, it's not true. I need to say that for the record. You know, because we're in different spaces and time, you know, you say the dogs have now been leashed. And in my language, dinja di tlamilwe, izinja zibophiwe. But the problem is that the kids of today don't leash dogs. They think that is cruelty to animals. But in our culture, when visitors come, we leash the dog so that you can be free. And so that's what we have done, figuratively. And with that, I would like to welcome the Deputy Minister.
I just say there's a connection issue on Teams, so we just have to fix that before the Deputy Minister and the Minister's speech.
How long will that take?
That's just almost got colleagues with that, just fixing the Teams connection so that everybody can.
We do. Should I sing in the meantime?
That sounds like a beautiful idea. Just get us over into it for the moment.
I'm told we have some technical problem with the Teams, and therefore the virtual platform is down, and I've been requested that we should hold on for a few minutes while they are fixing it. Unfortunately, I cannot sing, otherwise I would be entertaining you in the meantime. So singing is not one of my strong points. Please indicate to me if it's going to take too long, we might just proceed. So, I'm told we're good to go. Deputy Minister, can I please invite you to the podium to introduce the Minister? Thank you very much. Can we please welcome him warmly?
No, thank you very much, Program Director, Advocate Pensi Tlakula. The Minister of Home Affairs introduced and then called to the platform. The Deputy Minister of Social Development, Mr. Hendricks, we really appreciate you joining us today. I've seen that we have speakers from our provinces, from the Northwest, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the Western Cape. The leadership of the Independent Electoral Commission, as led by Commissioner Love and former Commissioner Mashishini. We really appreciate your presence today with us here. And the members of the Portfolio Committee who are with us, as led by the Chairperson, Mr. Musa Chabane. Traditional leaders, we really appreciate your presence. Our work that we are doing here is really affirmed at the core of the values that we must respect traditional leadership and embrace all leadership structures that we have in the country. So, the Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Tommy Makode, who has really been central in the process of administering the work that is being done by the panel. We really appreciate the work and would like to also confirm our support that we've been given to the panel. That is, it is unconditional and it will continue up until such time that their work is finished. Distinguished guests, experts from various fields, we really appreciate your presence, leaders of political parties, ladies and gentlemen. Today is really a rare occasion in any democracy where we see a review of an electoral system. It is a defining moment in the political life of any nation, especially for a democracy as young as ours. I was thinking this morning that if our democracy was a person, it will still be regarded as youth, as actually a young person. And I want us to take reflection on how we as individuals reflect and what do we see when we see young person and how we treat them. The work we are doing today is necessary and critical in advancing our democracy and constitutional values in order to build a better South Africa, and a better world. It is Karina Pirelli, an international expert in elections and constitutional arrangements, that teaches us that, done well, electoral system designs can add to the momentum of political change, encourage popular participation, and enable the emergence of legitimate representatives who are capable of handling a wide range of needs and expectations. And I want us to undertone, done well. Reforming our electoral system is in the interest of democracy and builds a better life for all, and has always been an unfinished journey for our great nation. Since the dawn of democracy, I trust that this time around we will be able to bring this momentous task to its logical conclusion, Chairperson, and not leave it halfway. We have already committed the resources for us to be able to do so. To support the panel's work, the Department of Home Affairs has adhered to the prescripts of the Electoral Amendment Act to the latter. Chairperson, we must always remember the saying that out of nothing comes nothing. And we must know that the work we are doing here today builds on a strong foundation built by those who have walked this path before us. Over the next 2 days, a conference will have a plethora of speakers and panelists who are here with us, who will share international experiences on various critical aspects pertinent to electoral system review process. This will include, amongst others, general principles of electoral system design, application of values in evaluating an electoral system, recent electoral reform experience, and international trends in electoral reform. We were joking in the holding room with the minister there that we so wish that we could stay the entire session so that we could really grasp and get to understand the various views and international experiences that will be shared here today. But obviously, you must remember, Chairperson, you must still give us a report. So eventually, we will definitely get to that. We really look forward to receiving insights from Electoral Reform Consultation Panel on preliminary proposals on electoral system options based on written submissions, public participation, as well as research, which should be the major influencer in the process. We must gather as much research as possible, and I believe that, Chairperson, that particular process has been done. We note that, as required by Section 23 of the Electoral Amendment, the panel has conducted public hearings across provinces to listen to the views of South Africans on their preferred electoral system, culminating in this high-level conference that we're having today. I trust that more insight will emerge from this meeting of great minds. As the Chinese will say, let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought contend. Indeed, this will be a contest of ideas till we reach the conclusion that we are all going to accept. Without any further ado, introduce a man who needs no introduction, who has really led the Department of Home Affairs towards a digital era, towards a home affairs from home, a political science, a doctor of political science, the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Amos Schreiber. Welcome to the floor, sir. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start by recognizing the chair this morning, Advocate Tlakula. Thank you for your presence and presiding over today's special event. The chairperson of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, Advocate Richard Sizane, and of course the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Njabulo Nzuza. And I must just say, I can't resist the urge to say that people have different views on the GNU and the tribulations, but I can tell you in Home Affairs the GNU is alive and kicking. I can give you that assurance. To the members of the Reform Panel, feel welcome. This is also your day, so good morning to you. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Mr. Moza Chabane, members of the Portfolio Committee, members of the IEC and your representatives, the leaders of the House of Traditional Leaders and Khoisan leaders, welcome to you as well and for the role that you have played in getting us here today. Speakers from provincial legislatures, Deputy Minister of Social Development, it was great to see you here this morning as well, and the Director General of Home Affairs, Mr. Makore, who has been quietly ferreting away in the background to make sure that the panel can deliver this report that is on the way. Esteemed guests, it is an honor for me to deliver the keynote address at this prestigious international conference for South Africa's Electoral Reform Consultation Panel. As we gather here today, I think it's worth recognizing that our country and indeed our world stands at an inflection point. South Africa's economic challenges, our growing voter apathy, and increasing dissatisfaction over governance failures are now being compounded by really unprecedented global headwinds. So that is the context in which we are meeting here today. And I would say that there can hardly be a more pressing or opportune moment for us to actually reflect on the reforms that are required to prepare our electoral system and democracy to face the challenges that await our country over these coming months, years, and indeed decades to come. The panel will deliver its report containing options for electoral reform by the end of August this year to the Minister, whereafter it will then be tabled in Parliament. And ultimately, I want to agree with the Deputy Minister that this process should then culminate in the tabling of legislative amendments that are aimed at enhancing the quality of South Africa's democracy. I personally look forward to receiving the panel's report, and I want to thank the members as well as all the participants at this conference for the work that you are doing in making sure we get the best possible product to guide us on the way forward. The panel's work presents us with the most exciting opportunity in 30 years to bolster our electoral system across a number of areas. The first area I would highlight is accountability. The panel is indeed looking at ways to strengthen that link between the people and their elected representatives by introducing mechanisms that would deepen accountability. As we saw most vividly during the state capture era, but also in the acts of corruption that undermine both delivery and public trust, South Africa is indeed in urgent need of greater accountability from elected leadership. This obviously includes accountability in the form of arrests and prosecutions, but the panel also has an opportunity to consider other mechanisms of electoral accountability. There can be little doubt that in a society as diverse as South Africa, the founders were right to opt for proportional representation over a pure winner-take-all system. But the question the panel is now grappling with includes how to best balance the Constitution's explicit commitment to proportional representation with more direct mechanisms of accountability. The second theme I would highlight is stability. As we have all come to see, South Africa's current electoral dispensation does not adequately cater for the realities of coalition government. I can tell you this from first hand, but also from research that I myself did for a book that I wrote in 2018 called Coalition Country. In this work, I examined South Africa's electoral system and came to the conclusion that its rightful commitment to proportional representation would necessarily mean that multi-party governments would soon become the norm in our country, as has now subsequently come to pass. However, I think the warning that I sounded back then is more relevant now than ever, because we have urgent work to do, beyond the work of this panel, to build a coalition culture in our country. But it is also true that our electoral laws were, inappropriately in my view, designed around the assumption of perpetual one-party government, because they were written in the 1990s by negotiators from an outgoing government who only ever knew one-party rule, and by an incoming government who desired one-party rule. But 30 years later, the reality on the ground is that we have now seen multi-party governments become more and more of a norm across all spheres of government. This requires us to urgently update our legislative framework to create more conducive conditions for multi-party government. Now again, as I say, speaking from personal experience, there are some obvious lacunas that we have to look at, including the 14 days we have to negotiate and form a government after an election, the lack of mechanisms, including independent mechanisms to uphold coalition agreements, as well as the fragmentation and instability caused by our lack of a de jure electoral threshold. The chair of the panel warned me today that... Advocate Sizani warned me this morning that, of course, the panel can't fix everything that's wrong with multi-party government, and it's a point well taken. It can't fix every challenge, but I think it's worth highlighting the opportunities to introduce greater stability through electoral reform in this process as really the second theme that I think stands out for me. Then thirdly, I would say this panel's work presents us with an opportunity to broaden inclusion by undertaking considered reform that addresses some of the changes that came about in quite a haphazard way in the last few years in terms of our election rules. While the introduction of independent candidates was constitutionally required, the ruling effectively injected independence into a party-based proportional representation framework that was not designed for independent candidates, or with that in mind explicitly. This has simply presented practical challenges that we must now tackle. Another example is the way in which South Africa manages overseas voting. It's good to hear that we have South Africans abroad involved in this process as well, because this area itself has also been subjected to court-ordered changes rather than considered reform designed to uphold the constitutional right of South Africans abroad to participate in elections. In other cases, we know that there are unjustifiable differences that remain between South Africans who vote abroad and those who vote at home, including by severely limiting the number of locations that can be used by the Electoral Commission as polling stations. This is a third area that can be addressed through the work of this panel, in this case to improve the inclusivity of the system. The process we have now embarked on therefore presents us with a unique and, as the Deputy Minister has rightly said, quite a historic opportunity to introduce that greater accountability, stabilize multi-party government, and create an integrated and rational framework to accommodate the changes that have come about in recent years to improve the inclusivity of the system. Fortunately, we are today in a position to draw on the experiences of other countries who have already grappled with some of these issues through this conference and the broader work of the panel. However, ladies and gentlemen, it is also important for us to be very clear about what the work of this panel cannot do. Critically important as electoral reform is for the future of our democracy, it is but one aspect of a much broader reform project that we require to get South Africa moving fully in the right direction. Merely changing the way that elections work is not a silver bullet to fix the deep structural problems plaguing our economy and society. Thank you. Whatever the changes that may be made to our electoral system, those changes, and I emphasize here, on their own, will not fix the crises we face, will not fix the water crisis. On its own, that reform will not fix potholes, streetlights, or broken municipalities. On its own, it will not defeat corruption. And on its own, electoral reform certainly will not lead to the reforms required to get our economy out of its current crisis in order to create more jobs. It is important to set the expectation correctly about what this panel can do and what it cannot do. And this is really important for us to recognize as well, because the source of voter apathy, which is one of the, I think, motive forces behind this work, does not stem from the discussions we have about proportionality, constituencies, thresholds, and all these other issues. The core reason why voter participation is declining in South Africa is because voters do not see the outcomes of elections improving their day-to-day lives. So conversely, if we want to start increasing voter turnout and satisfaction with democracy again, then we need to undertake the tough reforms required to improve the daily lives of the South African people. While sensible electoral reform can certainly help shape healthier incentives for politicians, it is ultimately the voters of South Africa themselves who must fix these deep-seated problems by using the electoral system that we are examining over these 2 days to make sure that they reward politicians who work to reform, fix, and grow, and punish those in office who corrupt, steal, and destroy. So anyone who promises us that the introduction of independent candidates or constituencies or changes to proportional representation or any other proposal that the panel is engaged with will magically resolve all our problems is deceiving us. For far too long, South Africans have believed that what our country needs is some kind of big intervention, some kind of silver bullet that will fix our problems overnight. But the truth is that there is no such silver bullet, and that we, in a democracy as the people, have to rescue the country's future ourselves. We must do it. The people must do it. Because in a democracy, the reality is that the people do the heavy lifting. That's also the thing about the alternative. I think it's important to be mindful as we deal with democracy that we mention the alternative. The alternative is some form of authoritarianism or dictatorship. And the great advantage that they have in the public eye sometimes is that they're easy. In a dictatorship, the people are absolved of responsibility because the power resides with one ruler or a group around the ruler, and it is not for the people to make difficult decisions. In a dictatorship, citizens are not required to share in the burden of governance by using their votes and participating in their democracy. Incidentally, this is also one of the reasons why populism is on the rise, both domestically and globally. And it is also why populism inevitably slides towards authoritarianism rather than democracy. Because like authoritarianism, populism offers an easy way out. Instead of thinking hard about what change is required and about the consequences of your vote, populism does away with those complications by promising that a strong man or strong woman will resolve all your problems. Of course, that is different in a democracy. For a constitutional democracy like ours, to improve the lives of the people, citizens are required to share in the responsibility of governing by voting smartly, by being engaged in their communities, and by protecting the institutions of state from capture and corruption. The work of this panel is an important part of this process because it presents an opportunity to give voters the ability to shape better incentives for politicians by enhancing mechanisms of accountability, stabilizing government, and harmonizing elections to improve inclusivity. But that is also all that this panel can do. For it is ultimately up to voters to use the improved system that we hope will emerge from this work to participate in democracy, to punish failed and corrupt leaders, and to reward progress. The work that we have undertaken together will constitute the most significant reform to our democracy since 1994. It is work that requires the utmost care because democracy is a most precious and delicate thing. I therefore encourage participants of this conference, as well as every South African, to support the important work that the panel, through support from Home Affairs, is doing to build a healthier, more accountable, more inclusive, and indeed more resilient democracy. The future of every South African will be shaped by the outcome of this work and the elections that will follow it. Our democracy is not only important for its own sake, but because our vote is the single most powerful tool we can use to shape a better tomorrow. I wish the panel well as it concludes its work, and I call upon all South Africans to support this process to ensure that our tomorrow indeed emerges better than our today out of this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your apt, frank, thought-provoking keynote address. The takeaway that I have from your speech is the electoral system cannot solve all the challenges we are faced with. Only voters and people can do so. Please join me in thanking the Minister and the Deputy Minister for gracing our conference with their presence. Minister, I would like to apologize on behalf of the panel. I've been sleeping on the job. And also apologize to all of you because we did not ask you for your consent to take your photos. Because we have an act called the Protection of Personal Information Act. I have to be on duty every day. So I apologize on behalf of the panel. It's now, and before we know it, our pictures will be on social media, without our consent. It happens. I don't want to talk about fines, Mr. Machine. So, thank you very much. It is now 10:10. We're going to take a short tea break until 10:30. Please, let it be 10:30 so that we then start our work. Thank you very much, Minister and Deputy Minister.